Hey there. Um, I'm home for my lunch break, so I decided to record another video, I guess. This time I actually want to talk about something that's been on my mind. So I guess I mentioned in another video that I uploaded technically this morning, although it was really more last night, um, about how I was getting really stressed out, and I just thought that I didn't have any time, like all my time wasn't really my own. And I think this is probably a good thing to talk about because it's probably something that a lot of people can relate to. So I guess I just kind of had a salient moment today or this morning when I was driving around. Um, I was thinking about time and I was listening to some um, podcasts that were sort of related to this topic. And I was thinking, it just, I guess, suddenly occurred to me that I thought that my time wasn't my own, but the truth is it is. My time is my own. All of the things that I do with my time and all the things that one does with their time is still their own time. It's just that it is also in some cases other people's time as well. Um, and sometimes you need to be able to share that, I guess, and accept that maybe it's all right um, to let go of that attachment to it a little bit, because regardless of what you're doing, you're still here today. You're still doing whatever it is that you're doing um, with your time, as long as you have it. And so, if you if you ever feel like because you can't be doing what you want to do with your time, you don't actually have any time to yourself, I guess just kind of sit back and reflect on that for a minute, because you have, your time now that you're spending thinking and dwelling on the fact that you don't have that time, and that's a waste of your time. That's taking away from doing things that you want to do, because realistically, who wants to complain and feel negative? Um, it was kind of difficult at first to see things that way, but it seems a lot more clear to me now. Um, if you if you kind of realize that, you know, on some level, all time is kind of shared right across the universe, and between people. Yeah, I mean, our lives are, microcosms of the universe, and they're in some ways they're self-contained, but they're also all sort of inextricably connected. And whatever it is that you're doing with your time, even if it is for, or I guess like in service of another, you have to realize that, yeah, you're using your time, but you're also using, someone else's. And it's ultimately a kind of an agreement that you walk into. And on some level, there's always a choice, even though, uh, you know, it may seem like there isn't, just because there's always an obvious better choice. And if there's an obvious best choice, then, you might try to make the argument that there is no choice, because who wants to make a suboptimal one? Um, but, well, that's not entirely true. There are upsides and downsides to everything. And ultimately, it's just a case of weighing up what exactly is the upside that you're looking for, or what is the most preferable upside, or the most preferable downside, or at least the least damaging downside. So if you ever I guess, and that's a little bit of a talk about time there. And then, as I was thinking about this, I kind of got my train of thought sort of switched lanes over to something else, and I was thinking about life in general and how it's everyone has expectations for their own life. I think on some level. I mean, so yeah, sure, some people, they might kind of be very in the moment and just kind of day to day, not really sure where they're going, not really having any kind of a plan, but they still have an idea of what their life is, or what their life ought to be. So operating with that framework, then you have to, I guess, sort of partly accept that. But sometimes, perhaps even a lot of the time, life never, or not never, but life doesn't line up with expectations. And that can be an indication that perhaps your expectations were unrealistic, or perhaps that, perhaps it's just misfortune, or uh, perhaps there's good reason that things don't turn out the way you expect them to or want them to. Um, and ultimately, I think that's okay, because you still have, you still have your life, and regardless of whatever expectation it is that you have for it, you have to sort of take it in, because at the end of the day, that's all that you really can do. When life doesn't line up with expectations, you might be faced with disappointment. But there are lessons to be found in disappointment, just as there are with everything else. And as long as you keep on with, the path that you're on, then at the end of your life, you will look back on a life well lived, I think, or at least a life that was lived. I mean, ultimately, it's up to your own interpretation, and I guess external interpretation as well. But it's not as consequential about how well your life was truly lived. But you it's kind of hard to stream this just out of my mind, because I was thinking about this a few hours ago, and it's not really fresh in my mind anymore, because I kind of developed those thoughts, and they just kind of slipped away. But I mean, the gist of what I'm trying to say is that even when things don't turn out the way that you want them to, or the way that you think they should turn out, um, that's still completely fine. And even if you don't want to accept it as fine, that is still the case. That is still reality. So you must contend with it either way. And and I don't want to I don't want to dress this up with any kind of flowery notion like, oh well, when things don't turn out the way that you expect them to, they're actually going to turn out better in the long run, or something like that, because I think in a lot of cases that's a bold-faced lie. the truth is that a lot of the time life just turns out a lot worse than you think it will. And there's um, there's still something to be gained from that regardless. It's just harder to see. So uh, I guess the moral of the story is, um, try and reflect on what it is that you want and expect from life, and how exactly you envision things turning out. And then try and envision what life would be like if none of those things happened. And think about perhaps, what other possibilities, could exist. And everything that you can think of, there are so many things that you just can't really conceive of, because there's really a lot of room for variability in life. So, I think that's something that helps, if you're facing some kind of disappointment, if you're feeling a little bit disheartened, like you feel like you're stuck, or you feel like you're never going to get where you want to be. Um, Perhaps you won't get to where you want to be, but you almost certainly will get to where you need to be, because life, at its fundamental levels, is about needs. Wants are, I think, in many ways, they're distractions from what really matters. So, and I'm don't try and misconstrue this as, oh well, don't want anything, because it's fine to want things, I guess, but you also have to accept that. So I mean, I think I've kind of repeated myself a lot here at this point, but I just wanted to get this out there because this was really on my mind, and I think that it is an interesting topic, on some level. I would like to, sort of, I guess, let these thoughts marinate and see if I can come up with a more eloquent way of putting this that, I guess, cuts a little bit more to the core of what I think this issue really is. Um, I've got to actually get moving, pretty much, because I only have so much time for my lunch break. So I hope that, this, broken record at this point, but I hope that whoever is watching is having a good day, and I hope that your days continue to be good, and if they aren't, then I hope that they get better with time, and that you get something from your days regardless of whether or not they are good. Until next time, cheers.